What's up, guys? It's Ava and Ivy, and we're back with a very special podcast episode because we have a very special guest. We have Sean on the podcast today, and if you don't know Sean, he was actually in MrBeast's newest video, 100 Pilots Fight for a Private Jet. There's some moments throughout the video that you'll probably recognize him.
Be the good person in aviation and not tell lies, not rob people for their money, and I'm a person of integrity.
I believe that.
I would like for you to steal it.
No steal.
Wait, that story works!
That doesn't sound like good integrity.
I can't believe that someone claimed to have so much integrity and it was all just a farce and that he lied right through his teeth.
There's some big moments that we definitely want to address, so we're happy you're on the podcast. Do you want to give a little hi? Little hello?
Hey, everybody.
Awesome. Oh, I forgot to mention, I don't know how I didn't just say that, but we know Sean because Sean is the husband of Maddie, number 852, who was on Beast Games, and we ended up getting really close with Maddie. We actually visited them even before, so that's how we know Sean. But now we also know Sean as being a pilot in MrBeast's video. So
Yes.
Yes.
That's me.
before we talk about the challenges, I want to hear a little bit more about your background, you know, as a pilot, whatever your past experience that probably would have applied to this video in the long run. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, man. Honestly, not too much really would have applied. If you essentially had any form of pilot certificate, you were eligible to be in this video. So we had a kid there, for example, who had only done what we call a discovery flight, which is when you show up at an airport at a flight school and you're like, hey, I want to learn how to fly. What can I do? I don't even know if it's really for me, but I want to try it out. And so they put you in what we call a discovery flight, where we just take you up and we'll fly you for an hour or two and just maybe let you take the controls and teach you some of the different things, just very basic maneuvers that you would do. And your instructor can then, or the school can sign you up for a pilot certificate, a student pilot certificate. So you can't really do anything with it yet other than learn. And we had a person there that only had that and had only done a discovery flight. So they themselves haven't had any true lessons yet. So that's all you really need. So as for my background, I mean, I am a full-blown pilot. I'm commercially licensed. I've flown passengers. I've worked for an airline. I currently work for the government, flying for them. And so all that, it was all great, but it was not needed to do what we did here. You basically just needed to be any form of pilot.
That's interesting.
And how did you find out about this competition? Like, how did you get signed up for it?
So I was one of the last ones to kind of come in. There was people that knew about this a year ago and had signed up.
Oh,
I
wow.
found out because they still needed people, because as a pilot, most pilots that are flying professionally don't have a very flexible schedule. You kind of get what you get for about 30 days, and you deal with it. If you're an instructor, you kind of make your own schedule to a point. And if you're just flying on the side for fun because you own your own plane or whatever, then you make your own schedule either way. And so there was a lot of mixed people, I want to say, for that, in the sense that we had a lot of students there. We had a lot of people that just own their own planes. We had a lot of instructors. And so all those different varieties of people kind of came together to, I guess, put this whole event together. And the way that I came into it was it being such a short notice and me working full time. They reached out to Maddie because Maddie was friends with some of the team from, the Beast crew. And they said, hey, if we remember right, you said that your husband was a pilot, right? And she was like, yeah. And so they said, do you mind if we give him a call and see if he'd be interested in this? So Maddie shared my contact information. The producer reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Do you have the time and availability to come do this? And I was like, well, where am I going and how long do I need to be there for? And they're like, well, you're going to be going to Saudi Arabia, but you can't really share that with anybody. And you shouldn't really be there any longer than 10 days. And I was like, okay. Well, it just so happened that day the government shut down. And since I was a government employee, I was sent home. So I was like, I guess I got tons of time on my hands right now.
Yeah,
And
right.
so, yeah. So I was able to go and say yes and join them going over there. And so that's kind of how I came to fruition in being part of this video that MrBeast put together.
Dang, what a crazy
crazy.
coincidence. That is pretty cool though. So did it feel like you were like meant to go? What was your mindset going into it too? Were you like confident? What were you expecting, I guess?
Okay, so going into it, my mindset, I was honestly pretty relaxed. I had a good idea of what I was getting into through you guys and through Maddie, having talked about Beast Games and how organized they are and how they run things, what time of day it's going to look like, how quickly it is from the moment you're doing nothing to the moment you're shooting a video. And then I'm also a veteran from the military, so I was pretty used to being able to stand around for long periods of time while waiting for absolutely nothing to happen. So there was a lot of that. So I expected that. And going into it, when that did happen, it wasn't really, a shock to me. And then having been over in that area for my military career as well several times, I was like, okay, well, I know the people, I know the environment. So going over there, I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to be staying at a hotel in the Middle East. It's not that big of a deal. So it was very relaxed going over there. I wasn't too worried. I wasn't nervous about it. I wasn't like, oh, if I lose, I'm going to be such a failure. Or if I win, what do I do with, all that money and fame? So I just kind of went to it and was like, whatever happens, happens.
I like that. That's the mindset you kind of had to have. You can't overthink things, especially in a
Right.
challenge like that when you literally have no idea what to expect, essentially.
Exactly. I was very excited to meet people as well. I mean, you guys got to meet a lot more people than we did. We were only 100, so it was a much smaller group of people to get to know. But I was very excited for that because being in the position that I am, a lot of people frown upon the government when you're a pilot and the government comes around to, check your credentials and stuff. It's always, you're always taught to stay away from them, and that's a big mentality that we've been trying to change. So it was very tough at first because nobody wanted to talk to me. Everyone's like, "Oh no, stay away from him. He's a Fed. Get away from us." And I was like, "No, I'm actually really cool. I'm really chill." So I had to work almost twice as hard, really, just to try to meet people, get to know them. But I was excited for it because in aviation, we're such a small community that meeting people, I mean, you make all these connections, and it really brings people together and allows for things to happen to where you can be like, "Oh, I know a guy. Let me call someone real quick." For example, we had someone with us. This is very unique, who was a Goodyear blimp pilot. I
Nuh-uh.
mean, that's such a niche job to have
Yeah.
because how many of those are in the US flying around? You know what I mean? So, and then to be one of the few females flying and doing that, it was just really cool to meet her while we were there. And she was one of many of the incredible people there. We had, a former NFL player that was there that he made it pretty far. We have a gentleman that was there that made it pretty far that flies rescue flights for puppies to try to rehome them and get them new homes. I mean, we had people that fly down in Curacao. We have people that fly Florida and the Midwest and all the way off to the West Coast on, Washington, Oregon, California. I mean, there's even people from Hawaii there. So we had people not just from the US, but even outside the US. We had locals, Saudis, the Saudi Arabian government, they sponsored this event. So we had to have a certain amount of their pods with us as well. And they were very hospitable, they were awesome people to work with. And it was great to see because as someone that's a military veteran, especially with, the way that politics are these days, it makes you dislike just about anybody outside of our country. You're almost made to believe like that's wrong. And as someone that has served over there, it's there's good people all around the world. But unless you leave the US or you see other people experience that and share that, they just don't know. So seeing a lot of these pilots come over there and never having left their hometown or their home state, they were just like, wow, this is the reality of things over here. This isn't what, everyone wants you to think it is. These people are great. This is so nice over here. And it was truly incredible. Just, I mean, they were, again, very hospitable people that were just awesome to have around. They even on one of the evenings for once we got down to I think around 19 pilots or so, they had this huge feast for us at the hotel that we were staying in that came out of their own pockets. They just put it together, they talked to the producers, and they said, "Hey, do you guys care if we do this, for everyone, and you guys can join in too?" And sure enough, so that we had they roasted some lamb on an open fire just outside and brought it inside afterwards. All of us dug in, and it was awesome because we all just kind of broke bread together.
That's so cool. Have you stayed in contact then with some of the people you met during the challenge?
Yes. So WhatsApp was our go-to for communication, and with 100, so we have multiple groups going. So there's the original group that has none of the management in it, none of the producers or anything. So there's like almost 100 of us in there that kind of chat and joke around more regularly. And being pilots, And with a lot of these guys being students or just very young pilots or still, a rising star, more or less. Um, it's become a resource group, which is just incredible. So someone's like, "Hey, I have a test coming up. I'm going for the next level of pilot certificate. What can I study? Can anyone help me study?" And the group has more than one person. Almost immediately, always respond with, "I'll help you out. Oh, check this. This is the book you want to read. This is the website you want to go to. These are YouTube videos you want to watch." So it's really incredible seeing how they came together. Then on top of that group, we have, so as eliminations took place after each event, it was like, okay, there was the initial group, then there was group 3, then there was group 2, and then beyond that there was group 1. So, and that had management at that point in it, and they would disperse any kind of information that needed to be put out through those groups. And with those, there's less chat going on, but there's also a little bit of smack talk that goes on in those, because it's like, these other guys, they didn't even make it past the first round. What are they talking about? What do they know? So it kind of goes all the way up until I'm not even in the one for the finalists that were there, but I know they're probably doing the same thing as well. But overall, I mean, the groups have all remained very friendly and super helpful and such a resource for one another. Because again, aviation is just such a small community.
That's
Yeah,
actually
that's
really
so
cool to hear about and hear. First of all, just how long they've been planning this video and how they've gotten so many like diverse people in the group. Like, when are you gonna hear about that when it's a MrBeast video? You don't think that deep when you just watch a MrBeast video.
Right.
Right.
One other question that like kind of goes off of when you were talking about the dynamics of when you first got there, were people forming alliances? Were people kind of standoffish, or how was that?
Mhm. So, as you guys know, socializing can be exhausting. So the first 2 days of us being there, so a little bit of a different circumstance in Beast Games, right? Because we weren't, I would say it relates more to probably the Vegas portion of Beast Games, to where everyone still got to stay in hotels and you couldn't leave, you couldn't go anywhere, you kind of had to stay there, get your food there and all that. So the same thing applied to us. We're in a foreign country. You can't leave the hotel. Now we did get some special privileges because one of the producers came to us and was like, "You guys have been the most mature group that we've ever worked with. So together we can all leave and go into the city and explore it some." Because, we're a lot of these people had never been over there before and they wanted to see the city and some of the local stuff. And we'd had days in between the filming sessions. So we're trapped in this hotel essentially. And there's 2 areas you can go. You can go to the rooftop and hang out there. The pool was very cold. So I think there was one day where we all kind of sampled it. And after that, no one ever got in again. And then the other place to hang out was on the foyer, the entryway, because there was a little cafe there where you could get coffee and cake. And so there were your two options to hang out outside of your room. So for the first 2 days, everyone just kind of got together and socialized a whole bunch. And I'm sure during that there was probably already some alliance forming, but it was mostly just people really getting to know each other to see where they fit in best and who they connected best with. Then after about 2 days, everyone was like, "I'm tired. I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to meet anyone anymore. I've met everybody. I'm exhausted." So then you start seeing groups form because only certain people still kept coming out of the rooms to those hangout areas and meeting up with the same people. And then from there, those broke into little groups, and there was never any animosity really from one group to another, but you could just see some people just connected better with other people. And so there was just regular groups that usually always got together and hung out. And it was a really good experience. There was never like "I don't like those guys over there. I don't want to hang out with them," or "What are they scheming over there? What are they plotting?" Now, I will say, just as a little spoiler for what's probably going to be coming up in the next questions, there's a certain individual that hopped between all groups and never really connected with anybody, and would try to get some intel from one group to the next group and be like, "Well, they're discussing this over there. What are you guys planning on doing?" And we were like, "Okay." I mean, kudos for him. He was, playing his own game while everyone else was trying to figure out the game. But it kind of painted him in a bad way from the beginning.
I wonder who that is about.
Yeah, I wonder. Wonder who.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the perfect transition to kind of just move in to the discussion. We do want to start with talking about the first challenge a little bit, the pulling the plane. My question is, was it really difficult to pull the plane, and how long did that challenge last?
So it was very difficult. It was really hard to pull that. And so there's, unfortunately, the first 3 challenges in that video are summed up within 8 minutes, and the rest is all just walking with the plane. the first three challenges in comparison, all of us collectively agree were just way cooler, and they cut out so much. And as you guys know from, Beast games, they take out a lot of really cool stuff to try to fit it in all these things. And actually, I have some insider knowledge because we had from the Win the Jet challenge, Armando. He was there and he was brought in as a consultant to help them out because Jimmy had like all these great ideas, but he didn't quite know how to bring them to life. So they were like, okay, well, who can we bring in to help us do this? So they brought in a pilot. So for that first challenge, for example, there was actually supposed to be 4 jets. Now, people that have been to the Middle East know that they're not the most put together, and they will show up for things and then just walk away and there's nothing you can do about it. So the first step was have 4 jets there. Well, one of them just never showed up. So they were like, well, what do we do? Well, there's nothing you can do. Okay, so we're going to work with 3 jets. So then they looked at Armando and they were like, well, how can we make this work? This is what we want to do. We want them to tow the jets, and they have to tow it this far, and whoever gets there first wins. And he was like, oh man, that sounds cool. Well, what do you need me for? And they were like, well, how do we make that happen? He's like, okay, well, you need somebody to turn them on because otherwise the brakes don't work. And they were like, sweet. That's what you're here for. Make it happen. He's like, okay, well, I'm one person. I can't sit in all of them at the same time. So they had to bring in all these different people. So setting up for it, we already were all very nervous because they brought us out and it's nighttime so they can better control the lighting. And we're sitting there and we're hearing a jet running. We don't hear all of them and we can't see all of them because the main prize, the way they had us stand, we couldn't really see what was going on behind it. And so before Jimmy brought us over to get really close to the prize, at which point we then saw, oh, there's multiple jets sitting behind there. I bet you we have to tow them or something. We're all taking these guesses. They had to make all that happen. And the reason that one jet was running is because they were able to start 2 of them, but they couldn't start the 3rd jet. So then they're like, okay, Armando, how do we fix this? And he's like, okay, well, you need a special cart that has the ability to start this jet, just kind of like the same way you're jump starting a car, essentially, except for a jet engine. So now they had to give us this big old delay because they had to go to the international airport and go grab one from over there. And of course, they didn't give them the best one. So the one they bring over had the ability to start the jet one time. And that was it. So they were like, okay, we can't turn it off ever. So now we're all sitting there, and this is the time period we're all hearing this single jet running, and we're all like, man, what could that be? Why is it on? And then we finally get over there and we see it, and we still see that it's just that one jet on. And then they explain all the rules and regulations to us so that's all fair and everything. And they're like, okay, we're splitting you guys into 3 groups. And then Jimmy just drops this bombshell of 2 of you or 2 groups are going to be eliminated immediately. And we're like, what? There's only 100 of us here. Like, if you do the math, that leaves us with 33 to 34 people. So we already had a little bit of a disadvantage because there was one group that was going to have 34 people. I happened to be in that group. Some people argued, oh, well, they had the unfair advantage of having one extra person to, tow this jet. It was fairly fair in the end because we did have one person that only had one arm. Or one hand essentially, so he couldn't really grab the rope. And then we also had the majority of women on our team. And so the other teams had some fairly in shape people on it that gave them a little bit of an advantage, I'd say, in that aspect. But overall, I'd say it was pretty even. I mean, one person isn't really going to make that much of a difference at that point. However, I was fortunate enough. I was on a team with 34 people. I will say we did have the NFL player or former NFL player on our team, which may have helped a little bit. But what they cut out, and this was it added such suspense to it all because the whole challenge lasted less than 5 minutes. I'd say probably less than 3. It happened so fast. Leading up to it took forever. Afterwards, took quite a while to wind back down, but during it happened so fast. So the rules on that first challenge were that you could not let go of the rope, otherwise they immediately slam on the brakes and that thing would not move. And the other thing had to be, so it was a loop kind of shaped like a circle, and everybody had to stay on the outside of it. So if my hand is, that loop, everybody has to stay to the outside. You can't get on the inside of it. And so if somebody fell, that was the third part, it would also stop immediately. So if any of those 3 things happened, somebody went on the inside, somebody let go, or somebody fell, your jet was stopped immediately, and the others were allowed to continue. So that being said, my group had someone all the way at the front fall and just domino effect take everybody out on one side of it.
Oh wow.
So our plane had to slam on the brakes and no one was able to move. So we're just watching this other jet go past our group and we're like, we're done. But during this time, everyone's trying to pick themselves back up, get back on the rope. And we're like, well, we're not going to give up. We'll still give it a try. And we all get back up, and just as we all finish getting back up, somebody at the jet next closest to us that was about to win falls and takes out a whole row over there. And we're like, yes, 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 we can still make it. And as you see in the video, Jet 3 almost passes Jet 2, and then we're just slightly ahead of him. And it was because we had just recovered and were able to continue on, finishing up that challenge and then winning and eliminating everyone else from the other two jets.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, what? I
it was
would've
very
wanted to see
suspenseful.
that. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
crazy. That's the issue with like the
And-
videos having to be like 30 to 40 minutes. It's like you can't fit every
know.
single thing in, but dang, that would have been cool to see.
So
I know. I wish.
Jimmy says this was one of his biggest videos, and we're like, man, if this was one of his biggest videos, why didn't he just make it an hour long? Because he's done that before where they've made videos an hour long. We're like, man, you could have really dragged those out some more. Because even afterwards, I mean, he came and Tariq was there. He came and interacted with us some. I think Nolan was there and he came and interacted with them. But like, for example, myself, a lot of us just sat down afterwards because we were just out of breath and just so exhausted. We've all been up for hours at that point. No one's really been drinking water because no one wants to have to pee while everything's going on. So I'm just like sitting on the side, or I'm sitting on the ground trying to catch my breath. And one of the people that I got close with there comes running up to me and gives me a big hug, and he's like, "We made it, man! We made it! We're moving on to the next round." And I was like, "I know I'm super excited, but I gotta catch my breath. I can't get up right now." And so then Jimmy saw that and he comes running up. He's like, "Dude, do that again. That was awesome." So now we got to repeat this again. So he comes up to me again and he's like, "Dude, we made it to the next round. That was awesome." And then Jimmy's like, "Congratulations!" And he like hugs both of us on the ground and he's like, "Come on, man, you got to be excited." And I'm just like, yeah, Jimmy, I need to catch my breath. But all that ended up getting cut out. They showed, I think, like a few people from the people that didn't win just kind of sitting on the ground, also exhausted and feeling defeated. But even those who just won felt very similar to that, just with the advantage of like knowing that you're getting to move on. But we're just so exhausted after towing this big jet behind us with, 30 some people. There was a short that they released where I think the jet didn't even move until we had 50 people in front of it. So it took quite a lot because everyone's putting everything into it to try to make this happen. No one was really slacking. I mean, there was a lot of injuries that came out after that.
That is crazy. And okay, wait. So you said you were on the team that had the extra person. How were the teams decided? Was that random or how did you get
Completely
picked?
random. It was
Okay.
completely random. So all the numbers that we were wearing that were barely even shown, all those were selected at complete random. And then everybody was paired up and sent to their jet, again, completely random. And they reiterated this. They reassured us this. There's no advantage given to anybody. We didn't look at genders. We didn't look at ages, nothing. Everybody's just completely random and how you were chosen and how you were assigned to the jet you were assigned.
Okay. Okay.
That's what. How do you know how many women were there? Like in the beginning?
If I had to guess, at least 20.
Yeah, because now that I'm like thinking about it, but I guess they either got eliminated. I don't know, but in the final challenge there were no women. I like just put that together. I don't know why.
Oh yeah. Because the last one was during the rotating jet challenge. That's where most of them ended up getting knocked off the board, and we had one. One made it past that, yep. And then she really wanted to make it further, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So the
Dang,
person, took the case and she didn't get to move on.
that's unfortunate.
But yeah, I'd say 15 to 20 is what we started with. And I think the Saudis had 2, and then the rest were all from all over the US and so on.
So yeah, talking about like the rotating jet challenge, I guess that's what we'll call it. How was that? Like what and where like how many people were before you? Were you closer to the beginning or the end? Were you using the strategy that they kind of said in the video, or what was your mindset behind that?
So everyone kind of put their own strategy there together in order to make it through that. A lot of us, so that was one of those challenges. We had to come back home and come back to it because that was again one of those to where Jimmy had the idea and then it was like, okay, so how do we make this happen? And MrBeast is very much so behind, if I say you're winning Lamborghini or Tesla, you're getting that exact Lamborghini or Tesla, not like this is just one for the cameras. You're going to get a different one that's behind, the garage door. So the jet was legitimately the prize, and you're going to win that exact jet. The problem was getting the jet to do exactly what it did for that challenge. Initially, it was set up to where it would have remained capable of flying, and they were going to have some of the locals come out and build a ramp, and it was going to drive up on this big stage that could rotate, yada, yada, yada. However, again, we're in the Middle East, so the people just never showed and it never got built. So they were like, okay, we only have X amount of days to film in this foreign country. What are our other options? And so someone was like, well, we got a really big crane. We could maybe lift it on there. And they actually pulled me aside at one point because, and I found this out afterwards, is to get it to be able to fly again, it would have to have certain inspections, and it could then be signed off on by the government to be airworthy again and go keep flying. And so Armando was like, well, if you guys use this crane, I need you guys to fully understand that it can no longer fly until those inspections are done. And they were like, okay. And he said it was like a scene out of a movie. They were all standing around in a big circle discussing this with the jet like behind them. And the crane was like sitting there hooked up to it, hadn't moved yet. And he was like, the moment it lifted, it's done. And they were like, yeah, we're short on time. Just do it. And he said someone just turned around and did one of these, and they picked it up. And he was like, it was crazy. And we all had an idea. So almost everything kept happening at the same location. So for the first challenge, no one knew. We all kind of guessed that we were like, maybe we're going to do something that involves flying. Maybe we're going to have to all like tow a single airliner and see, as people get eliminated on that somehow. We never expected it to be 3 or 4 of them that were going to need to be towed. But during that, we got glimpses of some of the environment. We're like, hey, what are they building over there? What's going on over there? And we shot that short, and we passed the area that they were building for that jet to rotate on. And we took these guesses of like, well, look, they have this platform and all these wheels standing there. Something's going to get put on top of that, whether it's a giant fan or a jet or maybe the actual jet, but something's going to go on there and it's probably going to rotate because look at all the platforms. They're all surrounding it in a big circle. And we're like, yeah, so we're all guessing. And we had a kind of an idea. We're like, well, we're going to probably be on those platforms and something's going to happen. Maybe they'll shoot us with paintballs or dodgeballs or something. But we knew it involved something with like this rotating platform in the middle and everyone's standing around it. So we kind of pieced that together. So when we all showed up, it was crazy to see. But again, so going back to bring this idea to life. So we're out there one night and we're like, okay, this jet's turning on and off and on and off and on and on. And everybody hears it because it's super loud. And we're on the other side of the runway in our little tent and everything. And they were letting us go outside. We couldn't wander too far down. And so from a distance, we could see the jet and we kept on seeing the tail like changing sides. And we're like, it's rotating. They put the jet on it and it's rotating. We know what this is going to be. But they couldn't get it done in time. So we had to go back, and then we came back again the next day for filming. And again, they were still running tests, making sure, so one thing I have to say is they are incredible when it comes to safety. They are super safe on everything, and they stress that and they show that and they really implement it. So they wanted to make sure that the jet always remained an equal distance from every player on every platform, that it was completely safe, that nothing really bad could happen. So they had all these contingencies in place. They even gave us helmets and gloves and flame retardant suits to wear just in case. And so we all come back. I think we started our day at like 4 p.m. and we didn't film until 4 a.m. So right before the sun came up. So we were actually supposed to have multiple rounds of that jet rotating. And then after the first round, all those people got knocked down. And then Jimmy let us do a vote. And he was like, do you guys want to continue on, or would you guys like to just call it here and move on to the next challenge? And it worked out for him because once the sun comes up again, he can't really control the lighting. So we all raised our hand and we're like, we're good with moving on, man. And we've all been up at this point forever. So we finished that one up and we moved on with 19 people then to the next challenge for the jumping out of the back of the plane.
That's crazy to hear, actually. Like,
Yeah.
that you even had the option to like vote to not do it. Multiple rounds would have been interesting, I guess. But
And so the cool thing with that too, that I think ultimately led everyone to put up their hands. So the first round, I mean, if you ever stood on the front of a boat when it was just going full throttle and you're just kind of catching the wind, you're waving your arms in the air, seeing how far you can lean forward before you fall. It was like that, but a lot more intense. And again, so back to strategy question. So for me, I was like, well, I'm going to be, like low profile. I'll just turn sideways because that way most of the air is going to pass me versus standing like this. Some people's idea was like, well, if I stand like this and just duck down a little bit, I'll be nice and solid and I won't get knocked off my platform. For most of those people, it just didn't work. For most of us that, really had good footing and turned sideways, it worked really well. But with each rotation, they're supposed to increase the thrust from the jet to knock more people down. And we're like, man, if that was the first setting, what's the second one going to look like? And then what's the third one going to look like? No one's going to be left after that. So they got enough people knocked down. They were happy with it. They were like, well, do you guys want to move on? Do you want to try it again? And everyone almost collectively, I think there was one or two people that were like, no, we don't want to move on. And so we had enough people out of the 19 that were left that were like, I want to move on. So we called it. We got to go back to the hotel, got to eat and go to sleep finally. And then more days went by, and then we finally got brought out for that next challenge.
And the next challenge is the one we've been waiting to talk about with you, Sean.
The one I got eliminated on.
Yeah, unfortunately. Did he tell you before you got on the plane what the challenge was, or did you guys hear that once you were like in the air?
No, so that was done on the ground. So we had, I think they learned a lot from when they did Beast Games. So we had a compliance gentleman there with us. I can't remember his name. And then I think the other gentleman's name was David. And his job was to essentially explain all the rules in every which way you could possibly ask anything about it. To where it's like, well, what if I do? What about this? What if this happens? And he had an answer for everything. And so we really broke it down. They told us all those cases were going to be inside the plane. They'd be hanging up. They were completely random. No one knows what's inside there except for the one person that packed each one. And that was it. They'd even put cameras inside of them because if you look at some of those other challenges, when they open the cases just slightly, there's a camera in there to show reactions and stuff. And they didn't even do that. So no one had any idea what was in those. And he explained that. He explained exactly how it would go down to where one person would then get to choose the case. That person would then get to choose someone. And if that person got to move on, they moved on. And then the person they chose took their spot. And then they could choose someone to go against. But if they were eliminated, then they were gone. And that other person got to move on. And so that's kind of how we approached it. And then the setup was, we pulled up. No one knew that event was coming. Somebody had some skydiving experience out of the 19 pilots that were left. And was like, these are a lot like the skydiving outfits that we wear. Wouldn't it be funny if we went skydiving and we're like, yeah, but there's no way. What kind of a challenge could we do with that? And how long can you go? I mean, when you go skydiving, it's over usually in a few minutes. And we're like, how are you going to do that with 19 people and eliminate them? So we're like, no, there's no way. There's no way. And then they ended up sewing some additional stuff onto those suits to where we're like, maybe we are going to do it because this is the same stuff that those suits would have if they were skydiving. So then sure enough, we get there and there's this plane sitting on the runway and everyone's getting all excited. And I was like, no, please don't get excited, guys. Because I've rode in this plane in the military and it's been sitting out in the sun all day. It doesn't have air conditioning. And they're all like, no, it's going to be so cool. And within like maybe 5 minutes of getting on the plane, everyone's just pouring sweat, dying. And someone was like, can they turn the air on? And I was like, what air? There's no air. The only thing you do is open the ramp on the back of the plane. And so as we're doing this challenge, like every so often they would open the ramp so somebody could jump. And I'll elaborate more on that here in a moment. But somebody would jump and every time they opened it, fresh air would come in. We're like, yes, give me air. But so we pull up, we see it sitting out there, and they explain it all to us. And then Jimmy has us, and one of those shots was kept. We're all standing behind the jet or the plane, and he's like, "This is what we're gonna do. Everyone, come on into this plane." And so we get on there. We all know what's about to happen. We take off. We start flying, and there was no time limits. No one said any time limits for how long you could go back and forth. And we were encouraged to lie, but all of us were like, "Well, we're pilots, and this is going to be seen by millions of people." And we have careers and some of us are aspiring and still want to have careers. So depending on where you go, that might be looked at as, oh, it was so cool you were on that show, but yeah, we can't trust you, man. You're a liar. You can't work here. So a lot of us were like, yeah, we're just going to be honest. Or at least, some of us were like, I'll just tell a simple lie and be like, yep, this box says jump. Oh, it didn't. Sorry. So you lost. Yeah. Versus the gentleman I went against who was like, oh man, you know me, we've known each other for a couple. So there's a lot of that. His speech was actually cut out where he really talks about himself and his school and how we've known each other. And he's such an honest guy. He's got so much integrity, and I believed him. I was like, yeah, no, you haven't done anything for me to second guess that. So I was like, I'll take your word for it. And my thought was like, well, I would like to be selfish and move on, so I will let you keep the case. I don't want to take it from you then. And then lo and behold, it was a lie. And when he gave his speech, he talked a lot about his company and his own flight school and how he's got so much integrity and so much honesty that he makes all these things free to his students. And then when it turned out to be a lie, everyone just stood there in shock. And later on, the crew pulled us aside, and we think this is why maybe it was cut out. They were like, why was that such a big deal? And we're like, well, aviation's a very small community. So later on, when you guys put this out there for millions of people to see, everyone's going to see this and go, I don't want to work with him. I don't want to go to his school. The dude's a liar. And so they cut out like a whole bunch of his like self-advertising slash,
Wow.
yeah, they just took all that out and left it with like, I'm a very honest person. I want to be an honest pilot. I have so much integrity. And then they kind of ended there. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Well, then I'll say no. I don't take the case. And then that's what it all came down to, was like this little, 10-second clip of like a couple minutes. But so to rewind a little bit, as the first person goes, we spend about 30 minutes flying in the air because, again, they didn't set time limits. And you could go back and forth as much as you wanted with your lies or your truths and trying to convince the person to let you keep the case or let it go. And after the first person, I think it was, man, I actually don't remember who the first person was, but that person did get to jump. So it was really cool. Tom Cruise's stunt team was there, again, prioritizing the safety and experience. So they were behind a lot of that, not just for the jump, but for the other stuff too. They were consulted to be like, what do you guys think safety wise could we do here more? So they had his skydiving team there with us and all their experience to make sure everything was very safe. And so after that first person won, they clipped them in and they did a tandem jump out of the back of the C-130 and the plane. And everyone was just super excited about it. But then we're all looking at each other and we're like, well, that was one of 19 people. We have 18 more to go, and that just took 30 minutes. There's no way that for another 18 people, we're going to stay up here for hours flying around a city where there's an active international airport with airplanes coming in. So they had to communicate with them, and they would have to swing into the city every time and fly over the drop zone and then leave again, and so that we weren't in the way of anybody. And we're like, there's no way we could do this. So then Jimmy was like, yeah, we have to land. We're going to continue it on the ground. And we're like, oh, man. So a lot of those other people jumping, they did get to jump, but for the challenge, we actually stayed on the ground, and they would just open and close the back door for effect, so that it looked like they were jumping every time. And then instead, they would just kind of let them step off and walk inside the building where there was air conditioning. And that alone was, a lot of people started kind of, after sitting in that plane for so long, we're like, oh man, I'm willing to kind of just be eliminated so I can go back to the air conditioning at this point. But so we got all those people up. And then after the entire challenge was done, all the people that made it got to load back up, and they took them all up at once and let them all jump together. And then from there, those people almost continued directly into the next challenge. From there, they didn't really get a break. So we already were up again forever trying to do that. And then those guys had to roll right into the next challenge essentially. But yeah, that's kind of how all that came to be and how I got eliminated.
That's
So
crazy.
brutal. Did you know immediately when you found out what the competition was that you were going to tell the truth, or did you think about like lying maybe, or
Yes.
just doing
So
anything? Okay.
no, I considered it for a brief moment, but I was like, you know what? I do have integrity. I'm kind of an honest person. And I also had to think about my career and me being a government employee. If I would have lied and they would have wrote on there, oh, this is Sean Yates, blah, 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 blah for the government, then it's no longer, oh, Sean Yates is lying. It's everyone going out there, see, the government lies to you. I told you. And so I could have came back and someone from HR could have called me and been like, yeah, you can't work here anymore. We have to let you go. Sorry. So I considered that, and I was like, I'm just going to be honest. It's the right thing to do. And that's what the approach was for most of us that did it. And I was able to help two other people that I think really deserve to move on. And I think let me see, one of them made it to the top three. Well, I guess two of them technically. One person that won made it to the top three, and the other person that a lot of people wanted to have win made it to the top three. But I was very happy to help the people move on that I helped move on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going back to like how you filmed most of it on the ground. When I was watching the video, I'm like, there's no way they've been flying for that long, because we know like so much stuff gets cut out and so much goes into
Yeah.
like each round. I was like, there's no way they just imagine being on the plane for like, I thought you guys were gonna be up there for like 10 hours just like flying around. Like there's just no way. It's interesting to hear how they did it. And I'm glad that those people did get to ultimately skydive after, even though, you know, they did have to go into a final challenge after that. But even if you can't be up there the whole
I
time,
wish
they still let them do it.
I wish people would have you look at these people and you tell them like, hey, this is what the case has. So it's your choice. Do you want to eliminate me or not? And most people, you know, they just have that thought of like, well, I do want to move on because I want to do things. I want to go jump out of the back of this plane. We did have some people there that were like, I do not. I do not want to do that. I have no desire to jump out of that. That's super scary. But they ended up doing it anyway, if they weren't already eliminated. So those that did move on, there were some there that were like, I do not want to do that. But they still ended up doing it. So there was a fear aspect for some of them to actually go through with that challenge.
Would you have been scared to skydive?
No, if I would have moved on, I was excited for it. I've never done it. I've always wanted to try it at least once,
Oh.
but I would have loved to have moved on. And now seeing that they put my name up and they never put my profession under there, I was like, man, I totally could have just lied and moved on. But
Oh.
I don't know. I think my wife and kids are happier too to see that, you know, dad's not a liar, that dad
Yeah.
tells the truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like that's the best
Yeah.
look you could have walked away with, in my opinion. That sucks
Yeah,
that
definitely.
you won a skydive and you were that close. Oh, that's really
I know. Top 12 out of 100. I made it down to 12. And then after that, I got eliminated.
Top
Well,
12
now-
is crazy though.
Yeah, that is crazy. But now you have to convince Maddie to take you skydiving.
Yeah.
I know. I've been talking to Patrick, throwing ideas out there lately. I'm like, you know what you should do? You should tell them they should do like a couples challenge where maybe you bring in like 50 couples or something, which gives you 100 people as well. And then they all have to do something to like, I don't know, test their relationships and work together or whatever. I was like, that'd be a cool idea. Because I'd go back and do it with Maddie, but I'm like, Maddie was gone for, 2.5 weeks. I was gone for a week and a half. And we're both like, we've now seen both sides of doing this, being at home and being gone, to where we're both like, I don't really want to be gone that long from you. Now she had the benefit. So this was very unique in us being there. We all got to keep our phones.
Oh.
So in a lot of the other ones, you don't get to keep your phone. Here we got to keep our phones. Now, every time we got called for wardrobe, we were not allowed to bring it. Some of the Saudi guys did, and they snuck some photos, and some of those have kind of circulated out there after the video was released. They were pretty good about keeping it to themselves up until the video was released. Once it came out, they started sharing some behind-the-scenes photos. We haven't actually received anything yet. I'm still waiting on my Uber reimbursement at this point from the airport. But we're the first people that got eliminated. They all got a whole bunch of swag when they left, and they're like, "You guys will get it too when you get eliminated." We still are waiting on that. They got all kinds of cool behind the scenes pictures, just like you guys had at Beast Games, and we haven't gotten those yet. So there's supposed to be some more stuff still coming our way, but who knows when that's gonna happen. And some of that will be some of those cool pictures too. But yeah, we had no phones to take any pictures, and anytime we had wardrobe, there was no leaving. Anytime you needed to go to the restroom or something, you got escorted while we were in the building. So, and the phones had to stay behind there. But every time we came back, we went back to wardrobe. Everybody undressed, put their regular clothes back on, went back to the rooms. You had your phone, so you were able to talk to, your kids, your significant other, whatever it was. And I'm sure people all shared, some low key stuff and was like, "Hey, look, don't tell anybody, but here's what we did today." But yeah, so that was very unique that we got to keep our phones. But it was also, being in a foreign country, one of the only ways they were able to communicate with us and be like, "Okay, look, at this time we need everybody to be ready, and you need to be wearing this uniform," because we had two different uniforms. As you've seen the video, we had the pilot uniforms and then we had the jumpsuits, and so that kind of varied which ones we were wearing at which points. And they would tell us via those messages, or when the food was available, because they had to keep catering food to us. They're like, "Okay, the food has arrived," and it was just these little like boxes of shawarma and rice and chicken, and I don't know. It got old pretty quick because it was like the same 3 or 4 meals repeated every day.
that
The
sounds like
breakfast there
base.
was amazing though. Yeah. But we were all fed. I mean, nobody really went hungry. There's usually always leftover food because some people didn't want to touch it. They made sure dietary needs were met. Needs were met for people that had, any kind of gluten allergies or didn't were vegetarian, things like that. They made sure all that was always met as well. We had
That's
Red Bulls too. Bet you guys could have used some of those.
Oh,
Oh yeah, we
that is
definitely could have
really
used some of
nice.
those.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Instead of cold coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, wait. I have a
Um,
kind of random question, but
Okay.
as we know, you look like Chandler. How did that come? Did that come up at all in your
Yes,
experience?
it did. So there was several. It was the girls actually that several of the females noticed it from the get-go, and I kind of earned the nickname of like, oh, that's just Chandler. Like everyone just
Oh
called me
wow.
Chandler, and I was like, I'm not Chandler. But some of them legitimately thought I was just Chandler hanging around
Oh my god.
everyone else in the beginning, and then after they got to know me, they were like, oh, that's not Chandler. But I just looked like it. And even during the first challenge, I think it was Tariq that was walking past me, and somebody was like, hey, doesn't he look like Chandler? And he was like, who? And I was like, Tariq here. Do I look like Chandler? He's like, wait a minute. Yeah, you actually do. He's like, it's so crazy.
That's funny.
yeah, Maddie told us that you were definitely getting a couple of comments on looking like Chandler, so that's
Oh yeah.
so funny. I mean,
At
that
one
was
point, even my profile picture for WhatsApp at one point, I changed it to Chandler just because
Oh my
that
gosh.
way everybody knew exactly who I was. They're like, oh yeah, that's that guy messaging all of us. And because we're all constantly chatting with each other while we're there and afterwards too. So while I was there, it was that one until everyone actually got to know me more and was like, oh, that's that guy.
that's
Okay,
so
that's
funny.
funny.
Another question, I guess this is more of a question I guess me and Ivy kind of have a little look into how it's like, but a lot of people do like when we ask, like, what was the journey like back home? Like, once you were eliminated, what happened? How long were you there until you got flown home and everything was over?
So when I got eliminated, we left as a group while the other group remained behind at the airport from the remaining 10. So we all were able to say our goodbyes, which was nice because I know in the past, like that's not always a thing where you get a chance to say goodbye to the people that are eliminated. So I got to say goodbyes. We gave a lot of thank yous to the crew for putting such an incredible challenge together with that plane and everything. We got to hang out with Jimmy there for a moment. Jimmy's whole crew wasn't there. His friends weren't all there. So it was just Jimmy, and I think he had two or three other people there with him. I can't even remember who all was there right now. But we all just kind of hung out with them for a moment because for all the other challenges, they came, they did their little piece. Jimmy did his intro, and then everyone just kind of disappeared while the challenge was going on, and you didn't really see them. And then after it was done, they would come around, they'd kind of try to interview you a little bit, and then they'd disappear again too. Versus that last challenge that I got eliminated on, they all actually stayed around and they came over and they talked to us and they hung out with us for a little bit. And you could tell like the heat from the desert was getting to Jimmy a little bit too, because he was starting to take that jacket, that big old flight jacket off, and he was starting to sweat and everything, and trying to show off his big guns. And he was being really cool though. He talked to us for a moment, and he was showing gratitude that we had so much gratitude for him putting all that together. And yeah, so from there I went back with my group to the hotel. And I just went, look, I've already been here for a week and a half and we only filmed 3 times. I'm really tired. I'd like to just pack up and go home. And Maddie was getting ready to have some surgery as well. So I was like, I'd rather just get back home and be there for her. So I just hopped on the next flight, which I want to say I got back around, I don't know, 6, 8 p.m. and my flight was at 2 a.m. So it was a pretty small window to turn around, but I still had plenty of insight as to what was going on because again, so as I'm sitting there waiting to leave, for my Uber to show up, they all came back because they had finished their jump at that time. You can't jump at night, so they all had finished and gotten a ride back to the hotel at that point because it had just gotten dark. And so they all came in, they updated us on how cool the jump was or how scary it was. And they gave us their goodbyes one more time because a bunch of us were sitting there waiting for this Uber bus to show up and take us back to the airport because several people were like, just take me there now. I don't want to hang out here any longer. I've been at this hotel for so long. You guys don't let us go anywhere, and we don't speak the local language. So we got to see them, and then we got a little bit of insight on what they kind of had planned for them next and what was canceled. There's actually a whole nother challenge that was completely canceled that ended up not happening. And then yeah, so from there I went on the airplane, or I went to the airport, got on the airplane and went back home and I arrived the next day at like 2 in the afternoon.
How did you react when you found out who won and like the last hour of how the last hour of the
Oh,
competition ended up going?
I was disappointed. I mean, I knew beforehand already who won because again, like the less and less the people got, the closer we all got. And with some of those last people that were there, I was pretty close with them. And so they messaged me afterwards and they were like, dude, you're not going to believe this. This person won. And I was like, no. I was like the one person that nobody wanted to have win, which now that it's reflects in the video as to why nobody wanted him to win. So I was like, man, to be deceitful like that towards me and then to make it that far. I mean, I'm happy for him. I don't have any animosity towards him. Like I'm happy he won it. I hope he does well in life. I hope it helps him and his family move forward. But I felt like there was other people there that had more honesty and integrity and truly kind of deserved it a little bit more than he did. But I mean, he didn't cheat to get to where he was, you know, he just played the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched our reaction video, but we weren't too happy either when we heard the outcome.
I don't think anybody was.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
glad
think
that
anybody
like
was.
throughout the video they highlighted how he was acting instead of it just being like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
a normal
And there was
person.
so much cut out too that really would have shown people more of how he was acting, going all the way back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video with that socializing aspect. He earned the nickname in the group Mr. Integrity because of it. But he was just always hopping in between people and never really formed any kind of true alliance. I mean, he hung out with different people for extended periods of time here and there, and he was always just trying to figure out what other people were doing, and he was just setting himself up really for success, but just not in the right ways.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you remember any specific like interaction maybe you had with him or like something he did that we didn't see that, you know, is just like adds to his story at all?
No, I can't say there's anything unique. I mean, I sat to him next to him a couple times on the bus, and it was just like any person who's doing his Duolingo on his phone, not really socializing. And then other times he just asked me some general aviation questions, wanted to pick my brain about some stuff to where we just talked about flying and potential career paths that he wanted to take. But outside of that, I mean, there wasn't anything to where I was like, man, this guy's just like slimy, grimy. Don't talk to me. Like, get away from me. Like, he didn't come across as a bad person. He just came across kind of like I don't know. I don't want to sound rude, but like a snake, I guess.
Okay, so thinking about like the final hour of the challenge where, you know, they had to come down to choosing who won essentially, his attitude to those two guys. First of all, we knew this two stories behind the two other guys in the final three too, and obviously we were rooting for them, and you know, we didn't really hear anything about him either, so it puts us as viewers in a position where it's like, okay, well, obviously that's the last guy we want to win. And I think that's also how the edit kind of laid it out as well, because as soon as it panned up to his face, I mean, I really was like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. You gotta be kidding me.
That cry is fake. That's a fake cry.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And he was going off on and on about, you know, I don't want to win off luck, and then he wins, and it's just, oh my gosh. I feel like that was such like an awkward moment. They showed the silence when everyone saw who won.
So I mean, he carried, so that attitude was present throughout him being there. Now again, he never had that towards me, and when you saw him have it towards other people, it was like, oh, was there something said or done over there that caused them to react in that way? So I had seen it while I was there, but again, I never really thought anything of it. I just thought, okay, well, maybe those 2 or 3 people over there just didn't really get along or something. But seeing it in the end appear there again, I was like, oh no, that's just who he was. That's just kind of how he was. So it was just unfortunate because it panned out the way it did because of that.
Do you think he would have taken his hand off if he didn't have the winning briefcase?
No, probably not.
We didn't think
That's
so
what we were
either.
thinking when we were watching too.
Yeah.
And I wish
doubt
that
it.
scenario happened so we could have seen that roll out. And then it really shows who he is as a person.
There's even rumors starting to circle now to where he had some sort of insight to where you see the 3 suitcases kind of stacked a little closer to him than the others. And you see this quick moment where he's standing next to the jet where he just kind of like leans forward, almost like he's looking at him. And like he notices a difference between the cases. Because as soon as they tell him to grab the cases, he immediately grabs just the one on top. And he's like, this one's mine. I'm taking this one. And so I've seen a couple posts now or comments on stuff where people are like, did you see him like look closely at that case? But they showed us those cases, and I assume they probably just recycled the same cases. There's nothing really on those cases that could in any way give something away to where you know what's inside of it.
Yeah. I just want to know, out of curiosity, if you would have made it to this final challenge, do you think you would have made it all the way to final 3? Like, knowing what they had to
I
do
think
now?
so. I think I would have asked why we didn't get to go do the challenge that was crossed off. I talked to some of the people that stayed behind. They didn't really get too much insight. We did get a little bit more from Armando. He said, so okay, so this challenge that got canceled was these little squares that you had to fly an RC plane through, and it was going to be in teams. So they had a whole bunch of planes, and you had to fly them through there. And he was talking about how out there's always wind in the desert, and so trying to fly these planes and do that, he said, just ended up being too difficult, and they couldn't control the wind. And even on the calmest day, they were like, and now we got to train these guys to fly the airplane too, and try to get them through all these lows. So they were all like in a row, so you would have to fly the plane to get it through all this, kind of like Flappy Bird but airplane style. And then he's talking about how like they were also talking about maybe you just fly it in the air and then somebody tries to shoot it down with a paintball gun or something like that. So they ended up just not being able to do that, and I think it was ultimately because they just couldn't control the wind. But I would have loved to have seen that challenge come to life as well, because the last one, in my opinion, was a little boring to just to walk next to a plane and, hey, last person to let go doesn't make it. And I was like, man, that challenge has been done before. He did that with like a car not too long ago, to where it was like, last person let go of this car, that's the person that wins the car. But I guess he added some twist to it, with you had to stand on one leg, and it went from walking with it and having to keep your whole hand on there to just only one finger, and that made it more and more difficult at each step. And again, because of how much time we were limited to use for filming in that country, they had to roll from the last challenge into that one so quickly that they started putting those things on the people to try to eliminate, or speed up the eliminations to get those guys out to end the video, because they needed to leave and stop filming there, because they didn't have permission to go beyond a certain amount of days. And so everything was kind of fast forwarded there. So they had to do that whole walk. I believe someone said it was like 8 miles is what they had to do to walk with the plane. It
Dang.
was something crazy that they had to walk through the city to do all that. And there's some TikToks out there that show, where they're going down the road, and like Jimmy stops at a McDonald's and everyone gets to order there. They all have to keep their hand on the plane, but they're all like getting food and stuff from McDonald's. But they had to do that. And then talking to my friends that, made it all the way to the end of that, they were like, yeah. And then, you're out there, and they started the challenge, and it was nighttime. And so they all went froze, and they had nothing else to wear other than their pilot uniforms. And then, of course, in the morning, the sun comes up and it gets to, 80, 90 degrees really fast. And so then they all had to start taking off clothes again and work their way around that so they didn't get too hot. And so that's why you see one of the people, Brett, I think it was, that passes out, because it just got to him being awake for that long out in that cold and then that heat, and then not really, having regular meals and regular hydration, just kind of led him to essentially faint on the side of that plane. And you had people like Bobby who were just like losing their mind, and it was like, hey man, aren't you missing something? And he's like, oh, my name's aren't on the jet anymore. So it's like all that kind of came together because they were out there for so long with so little in that environment, trying to just keep their hand on it.
Yeah, I do not want to know what I would look like after doing all that and still trying to touch the
Yeah.
plane for real. And going back to the like cutout challenge, essentially, it's interesting to hear that 2 reasons. I mean, one, there was a situation in Beast Games very similar to that when we were on the island. Like they wanted to shoot cannons and knock their boats over, but the wind or the waves or weather, whatever, made them not do it. And it's kind of similar to that concept as well. And Ivy, I don't know if you remember, but we played the Beast Games Roblox, and one of the games was like you had to fly a plane through
Oh,
the hoops.
yeah.
Do you remember
Oh,
that?
wait, yeah. Yeah,
So
I
I
do
wonder
remember that.
if that was like a little inspiration to that
Oh,
challenge in a
yeah.
way, right, Ivy? I'm not.
Maybe.
Yeah,
not
no, I
wrong
know
about
exactly
that.
what you're talking about. It
Okay,
was
yeah.
like, yeah, it was like hoops and stuff you had to go through.
Yeah. Dang,
That's
Sean,
interesting.
I really wish we could have seen you in that final challenge, though. I
I
mean,
know.
Me too. Honestly, though, I think at the time that Jimmy was, so the gentleman that took the 50,000, he's a father of 4 boys, and we had socialized a whole bunch of times to where we're just like at, because you sit there for so long out in the sun, multiple days in a row, going like, when are we filming the next challenge? What is taking so long? And then we talked about it. Honestly, if he showed up right now, I was like, "Hey, would you leave for 50,000? Would you leave for 10,000?" Him and I looked at each other. We're like, "Yeah, sure. I'll go home for that and go back to my family." And so when he got to that next challenge, I would have done the same thing that he did. To where they were like, "Hey, $50,000 to self eliminate." I would have been like, "Yep, right here, me. I'm happy to go home at this point," because especially knowing how long they would have went, and who knows, when they got down to that last part, depending on how the time may have worked out with how everything went, it could have potentially even have gone longer than that, to where they could have had extra time in filming and been like, oh, we're going to go more than 24 hours of you having to keep your hand on that plane. And again, you're facing a lot of things at that point, like the exhaustion and sleep deprivation and all that.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe nobody would have won the jet at all. Maybe nobody would have taken their hand off. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and me and Ivy were talking about how we would love to do a last to take your hand off challenge, but when I was watching this video and like seeing the walking aspect added to it, I'm like, dang, I don't know if I would have made it. Like I would have taken that 50K at that point. And especially now, like knowing the circumstances of like going straight into that challenge after the the last one, pretty much, it's just like, oh, I probably would have been out there. And the
I don't
running
think they
part,
got to. Oh yeah, I'd have to go back and see what they were wearing, because the pilot uniform was with boots. We didn't wear tennis shoes. I think it was boots, and you wore those same boots with both uniforms. So I'm not sure if those guys got to wear tennis shoes or not. I know in the end I saw them standing there in socks after it was stationary, but they might have had to do that run and that walk in these heavy duty boots.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would have.
That were not broken in. Definitely exhausting. Not the most exciting challenge, but definitely one that will bring you to the brink of exhaustion really quick.
Yeah, for sure. Shoot, I mean, I guess that kind of covers the whole video. Do you have any like kind of last regards, or maybe something that we didn't bring up that you think would be fun to share?
I guess just the connection. So a lot of us in the video came from the Charlotte area, because again, they needed a whole bunch of pilots last minute. So them reaching out to Armando is here in the Carolinas in the Charlotte area. So he made a post looking for people, and a whole bunch of people in the Charlotte area responded to him. And so there's a whole little aviators network that's just here in Charlotte alone from that video. So yeah, we have the connection of all the pods from all over the place, but there's a large percentage of us right here in Charlotte. So since we've gotten back, a whole bunch of us have easily been able to get back together and continue to do so. Shortly after we got back, we got together with Armando, where he gave us a bunch of insight, and then we got together again. There was a Carolina Aviators Network meeting, to where we had the CEO of that. She was on the show, or on this episode, and explained what they were about and how they just bring people together and connect them with people they need to connect with. And they had a whole little event that we all linked up at, to where it was just really cool seeing everybody there again. And then they had a watch party as well, where a whole bunch of them, and the cool thing is, us being pilots, a lot of people that are not too far out will just fly in as well. So we'll all just take their personal planes and they just come fly to the airports to meet up there, and they can all link up together. So I'd say there's that benefit that came out of this too, to where that group grew as well, because all of us know people as well, and then we connect them as well. And so her group grew substantially just from being there, and all of us knowing each other and just connecting through that.
That's really awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, jinx. Sorry. No, that's really awesome to hear, though. The MrBeast cinematic universe continues to grow. Now we got 100 pilots in it. We always make a joke how it's just like, it's literally a cinematic universe. You have so many characters at this point, and they're continuing to add more people. It's fun, and it's just fun to be able to connect with people who you would have never met otherwise. So people don't.
Yeah, I know. I hope he brings some of those people that should have went a little bit further or deserved it a little bit more. I know there was talks of like GoFundMe's and stuff being put together for some of the people that shared their stories on that episode, but it'd be great to see him bring some of those people back together that made it fairly far and were honest people.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
I guess that leads us to a final question of, you kind of already said this, but would you go back? Would you do it again? Would you be in another video?
I would go do another video, but it would need to be a much shorter period of time.
Yeah, I think it's a different mindset when you have like a family and kids. You know, me and Ivy are literally like,
Yeah.
put us in a bunker for 100 days. do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, put me in some.
Right. I'm like, man, I would not be able to come back to a job if I did that for 100 days.
Right, yeah. But, you know, that's great to hear. I want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. It's been really fun just hearing all the insight and what we didn't get to see. You know, we love that stuff. We're a behind the scenes podcast. That's what we do. But I guess that just leads to us rolling out the red carpet for you, whether you want to say final remarks, you want to shout out your social media, whatever you want to do.
Let's see. I guess I get to give a shout out because all my shout outs from the episode were cut out. So I got a shout out for my daughters, Remedy, Raina, Reese, and River. Love you guys.
We love you too. They're the best guys.
Yes.
Well, that's all I really got.
Okay.
I mean, I've shared, I think, everything I can think of for the show.
Shout out Maddie.
Yeah, shout out Maddie.
Oh, yeah, of course. Shout out Maddie, but she didn't give me any shout outs on the show.
Oh,
You're right. That's a good point.
Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below about what you thought of this MrBeast challenge, and go comment on MrBeast video to bring Sean back.
Yeah.
Make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.
See ya.